One day, your company will control pipelines across continents. Your tankers will cross every ocean. Your refineries will run through the night. Governments will study your decisions before they make their own. When your company slows production, markets will shake. When your company signs a deal, cities will light up. And the energy empire you build will be worth more than entire nations. But today, you are 10 years old. You are standing outside an oil field at night. The sky is black with smoke. Flames rise above the metal towers. Workers run past you in hard hats. Your mother is holding your shoulder so tightly it hurts. And your father is somewhere behind the fire. He is not an owner. He is not a rich man. He is a mechanic. He fixes pumps, tightens valves, crawls under machines that richer men only see from office windows. Tonight, one of those machines failed, and the whole town can see the price. Hours later, your father comes home. His uniform is burned. His eyebrows are singed. There is a red mark across his arm that will never fully disappear. Your mother cries when she sees him. You do not. You are too young to understand everything, but old enough to understand one thing. Oil is not just money. Oil is power. Oil is danger. And when careless people control it, ordinary families pay the price. The next morning, the company says the accident was unavoidable. Your father says nothing, but at the kitchen table, you hear him tell your mother the truth. The warning sensor had been broken for weeks. The old valve should have been replaced. The crew had asked for repairs. The company delayed them, because repairs cost money, and stopping production costs more. 3 weeks later, your father loses his job. Not because he caused the fire, because he talked about it. That is the first lesson oil teaches you. The people who control the wells often control the story. For years, your town lives under the same rhythm. When oil prices rise, new trucks appear in driveways. Restaurants fill. Workers buy better boots. Your school gets new windows. Then prices fall. The restaurants go quiet. The trucks are sold. Families leave in the middle of the night. And everyone pretends they are not afraid of the next layoff. Your father takes small jobs, fixing generators, repairing engines, driving out to old pump sites nobody wants anymore. Sometimes he brings you with him. You sit in the passenger seat, watching miles of empty land pass the window. At first, you only see dirt, pipes, and rusted machines. But your father sees more. He points to the ground and says, "There are layers under us older than countries." He points to a dead pump and says, "That well was not empty. It was managed badly." He points to a flare burning in the distance and says, "Never trust a man who wastes what others risk their lives to bring up." You start asking questions. Why does one well produce for decades, while another dies in 5 years? Why do some fields explode, while others run safely for generations? Why do rich companies abandon land, then fight to get it back years later? Your father laughs at first. Then he begins answering. He teaches you the names of parts: pump jack, separator, compressor, valve tree, drill bit, pressure gauge. But the old field engineer teaches you the deeper language. His name is Elias Ward. Everyone calls him Ward. He is older than most of the rigs. His hands shake when he drinks coffee, but never when he reads a geological map. Ward carries notebooks filled with sketches, numbers, and warnings written in black pencil. He tells you oil does not care about optimism. It does not care about investors. It does not care about speeches. It only cares about pressure, rock, time, and mistakes. At 16, you work summers at a supply yard. You sweep dust from tools. You load pipe fittings into trucks. You count boxes of bolts until your fingers are black. The older workers call you the mechanic's kid. Some say it kindly. Some say it like a warning. You listen more than you talk. You hear which companies pay late, which supervisors ignore leaks, which fields still have life underground, which owners are smart, and which owners are just lucky. At night, you sit in your room with old field maps spread across the floor. Your mother thinks you are studying for school. You are, just not the way she thinks. You are studying failure. Every abandoned well, every closed refinery, every pipeline that was built too cheaply, every company that grew fast, then collapsed faster. You begin to notice a pattern. Most oil companies do not die because the ground is empty. They die because the people in charge become greedy, lazy, or afraid to stop when stopping is the right thing to do. At 21, you leave town to study petroleum engineering. The city is loud. The classrooms are clean. The professors talk about reservoirs, economics, and global demand. Other students dream about big salaries. You dream about broken sensors. You dream about your father walking out of smoke. You spend weekends at small fields outside the city. You ask operators for stories. You ask engineers for mistakes. You ask retired drillers what they would do differently. Some ignore you. Some laugh. But a few talk, and every story becomes part of the company you have not built yet. At 24, you get your first real job. Not in a glass tower, not in a boardroom. In the field, you sleep in cheap motels. You eat cold food from gas stations. You drive through dust storms before sunrise. You stand beside pumps that sound like tired animals. Your boots are always dirty. Your phone is always dying. And your notebook is always full. Your bosses think you are too serious. The crews think you ask too many questions. Investors think you're not ambitious enough. But Ward says ambition is useless unless it can survive mud. For 3 years, you learn the parts of the business nobody puts in investor presentations. You learn how a small leak becomes a shutdown, how a bad road delays a repair, how a cheap contractor can cost 10 times more later, how one honest foreman can save a field, and how a quiet accountant can see trouble before the engineers do. That accountant is your mother. After your father lost his job, she kept your family alive with numbers, bills, receipts, small debts, late payments. She never called it business, but she understood survival better than most executives. At 27, you find the well everyone forgot. It sits at the edge of an old field, behind a rusted fence, beside a road nobody repairs. The pump jack barely moves. The storage tank is dented. The office trailer smells like dust and old coffee. The owner wants to sell. He says the well is finished. The bank says it is worthless. Your old classmates say you're wasting your life. But Ward looks at the pressure records, then looks at the map, then says one sentence.
This well is not dead.
It was insulted. You use your savings. You borrow from people who should probably say no. Your mother agrees to help with the books. Your father says nothing for a long time. Then he gives you his old tool bag. Inside it is a wrench, a pressure gauge, and the gloves he wore before the fire. You buy the well, not the field, not the company. One well, one rusty pump, one chance to be wrong. The first month is brutal. The pump stops twice. The road washes out after rain. A small pipe cracks. The generator fails during the hottest week of summer. The bank calls every Friday. Your mother tells you exactly how many days you have left before the money is gone. Your father works beside you without asking for pay. Ward appears every morning with black coffee and bad news. But he also brings solutions. Change the choke. Clean the separator. Replace the sensor before it lies to you. Slow production now, or lose the well later. That becomes your first company rule. Never force the ground to give what it cannot safely give. The first profitable day is not dramatic. No cameras come. No one applauds. The pump simply keeps moving. The tank fills slowly. Your mother checks the numbers twice. Then a third time. You have made enough to pay the crew, pay the bank, and buy one more week. That night, you sit outside the trailer with your father. The air smells like metal, dust, and crude oil. He looks at the pump jack, moving against the sunset, and says, "Now do it again." So you do. You buy another neglected well. Then another. Not the glamorous fields. Not the places with big press releases. The ugly wells. The tired wells. The wells abandoned by companies that were too large to care about small improvements. You repair roads. Replace sensors. Train crews. Pay invoices on time. You build a reputation that sounds boring, until boring becomes valuable. Your wells do not explode. Your workers do not quit after one season. Your equipment does not fail because someone ignored a warning. Your company is small, but it is becoming hard to kill. Then the rival appears. Victor Hale owns more wells than you have employees. He arrives in a black helicopter. His boots are too clean. His smile is too practiced. He offers to buy your company. The number is bigger than anything your family has ever seen. For one moment, you imagine saying yes. Your parents would never worry about money again. You would never answer another midnight phone call. You would never stand beside a broken pump in freezing rain. But then Hale says the quiet part out loud. He says your safety spending is emotional. He says your crews are overpaid. He says old fields only make money when you squeeze them. And you see the same kind of man who once delayed the repair that almost killed your father. You say no. Hale smiles. Then he tells you no is expensive. After that, everything gets harder. Suppliers suddenly raise prices. A transport contract disappears. A bank officer stops returning your calls. Rumors spread that your wells are unstable. Hale does not need to destroy you. He only needs to make you look risky. For the first time, you understand that oil is not just underground. It is in contracts, in ports, in politics, in fear. If you want to survive, you cannot just pump oil. You need control. So you build your own small trucking fleet, then a small storage yard, then a repair shop, then a laboratory that tests the crude before anyone else touches it. Every step is expensive. Every step makes investors nervous. But every step removes one hand from your throat. At 33, your company owns 12 wells, 30 trucks, 2 storage terminals, and a reputation for doing things slowly enough to last. Then you find the desert field. It is far from the old town, far from your father's burned uniform, far from everything that started this. The field is larger than anything you have owned. If it works, your company changes forever. If it fails, you lose everything. Investors want speed. The bank wants growth. Your team wants proof that you are ready to become more than a small operator. You drill. The early numbers are excellent. Pressure is strong. Flow is better than expected. Your board wants full production within days. Victor Hale calls it luck. The industry calls it a breakthrough. Your mother calls it dangerous to celebrate before the invoice is paid. Then your new safety chief walks into your office. Her name is Mara Chen. She is calm, precise, and impossible to rush. She places a folder on your desk. The pressure readings are not wrong. They are too good. A deeper fault line may be feeding the well. If the field is pushed too hard, the casing could fail. The blowout risk is small, but small is not zero. The board says keep pumping. The investors say do not panic. The newspapers say your company has finally become important. And your father says nothing. He only looks at you with the same eyes he had the night he came home from the fire. You shut the field down. Not one well, the whole field. The decision costs millions in a single day. Your stock price collapses. Reporters call it fear. Analysts call it inexperience. Victor Hale calls it proof that you were never built for big oil. Inside the company, people whisper. Some board members demand your resignation. One investor says you are running an oil company like a childhood apology. For the first time, you wonder if he is right. Maybe you are still 10 years old, still staring at fire, still trying to fix a night that cannot be fixed. Then Mara's team opens the casing. The damage is real. Not visible from the outside, not dramatic yet, but real. If production had continued, the field could have failed. Not maybe in 10 years, maybe in 10 days. The same reporters who called you weak now call you disciplined. The same investors who wanted you removed now praise your leadership. The same workers who were unsure now look at you differently. Because they know the truth. You lost money to keep them alive. That is the day your company becomes more than a business. It becomes a culture. After the shutdown, governments start calling. Not the richest governments, the difficult ones, countries with old fields, angry workers, corrupt partners, broken infrastructure, and towns that no longer trust oil companies. Your competitors see problems. You see familiar ground. You enter slowly. You meet local crews before ministers. You inspect old pipes before signing contracts. You pay for training centers before building executive offices. People mock the pace. Until the wells keep running. Until spills fall. Until workers stay. Until small towns begin defending your company because they have seen what happens when you leave a place better than you found it. Your empire grows in layers. Wells, storage, pipelines, refineries, tankers, ports, trading desks, emergency response teams, Data centers that watch pressure across continents. By 42, your company is no longer small. By 48, Victor Hale is the one asking for a meeting. His empire is larger, but weaker. Too many shortcuts, too many debts, too many angry crews, too many fields pushed too hard for too long. He wants a merger. He calls it partnership. You call it rescue. Your board wants the deal. It would make you one of the most powerful energy companies on Earth. But Mara says Hale's assets are poisoned by bad habits. Ward, now very old, says rotten pipe still looks like pipe until pressure finds the truth. Your father says nothing. Again, you walk through one of Hale's old facilities at dawn. The paint is new. The warning lights are old. The control room is expensive. The emergency valves are neglected. You see your childhood in polished glass. You reject the merger. The market punishes you again. For 3 months, every headline says you missed your chance to dominate. Then one of Hale's major offshore platforms shuts down after a preventable failure. No one dies, but the cleanup costs billions. His lenders turn on him. His partners leave. His empire starts selling pieces of itself to survive. You do not celebrate. You buy only what can be repaired. You close what cannot, and for every asset you take, you keep one promise. No hidden problems. No ignored sensors. No production bonus that rewards danger. No manager who treats workers as replaceable parts. At 52, the world changes again. Oil is still powerful, but energy is no longer simple. Cities want cleaner fuel. Ships need new systems. Governments want security without dependence. Activists call your industry the past. Old oil men call everything new a distraction. Your company stands between both sides, and you make the decision nobody expects. You do not abandon oil. You do not pretend it has no cost. You build the company for the transition. Carbon capture beside refineries. Gas plants that replace dirtier fuel. Emergency reserves for cities. Cleaner shipping fuel. Solar fields beside old pump sites. Training programs that move workers from dying fields into modern energy systems. People accuse you of trying to please everyone. You say no. You are trying to survive reality. By 58, your company controls wells, pipelines, tankers, refineries, storage terminals, and clean energy projects across the world. Your logo is on hard hats in deserts, ports, control rooms, offshore platforms, and emergency trucks. When storms hit coastal cities, your fuel reserves keep hospitals running. When a pipeline pressure spike appears at 3 in the morning, your control center shuts it down before anyone outside the room knows something happened. When workers speak, executives listen. Not because you are kind, because you built the company to understand that ignored warnings are more expensive than respected ones. One evening, you bring your father to the main energy terminal. He moves slower now. His hair is white. The burn mark on his arm has faded, but never disappeared. Below you, tankers wait in the harbor. Pipelines stretch toward the horizon. Control room screens glow behind glass. Workers in clean helmets walk past the company logo. Your father watches them for a long time. Then he says, "They look safe." That is the first time you feel richer than the numbers say. Because you did not build the biggest oil company simply because you loved oil. You built it because you learned what happens when powerful companies forget the people standing next to the fire. Now your company fuels ships, heats homes, keeps cities moving, powers factories, and carries your name across the world. But every time a new well starts pumping, you still remember the black sky. You remember your mother's hand on your shoulder. You remember your father's burned uniform. And you remember the promise you made before you even knew how to say it. If you ever owned the company, you would never let greed run it alone.